Hello everyone, I'm Silverraptor and welcome back to more Wargame Red Dragon Final Send-Off videos. I know how in basically the last episode where I was playing with East Germany, how I wanted to do a kind of countdown to Warno Early Access, and I'm afraid to say I missed that deadline, given how late this video came out and how long ago Warno came out. And it's not for lack of trying. It was just hard to get games during those days. I tried very hard, but it was also harder to get good games. I didn't want to cop out and do all sorts of games where the whole game fell apart within like the first 10 minutes. I had plenty of videos of just complete and utter stomps. I've had videos of where I lose everything within the first 5 minutes. Now, I'm of course the kind of person who's ready to fight it out and try to regain my ground and try to help get the win with my allies. But unfortunately, one of my teammates would have then, of course, quit. And I'm just like, well, 2v3 when we're in a losing position probably wouldn't go the way I wanted. So I often have to leave with those kind of games. But I think I got enough games with enough good content. So I thought I'd start off with the Soviet Union, since the last game that I played was East Germany. And even though East Germany is supposed to be in Warno, it's not out yet. It's early access, and so I decided let's just start with the Soviet Union, and then probably the USA for the next video with the gameplay featuring the different units. And then we can go with all the other Blue 4 nations. They'll just come out whenever I get them out, hopefully soon. I have all the games recorded with each of the nations, though. That's what I was hard at work, so all I have to do is just do the recorded gameplay. So speaking of which, let's get this recorded gameplay of the Soviet Union underway. And here's some gameplay of the Soviet Union. It does get a little bit on the stompy side, but I figured I was kind of getting burnt out from all the games I was trying to get with Soviet Union. For some reason, trying to play Soviet Union was the hardest out of all the nations that I tried to play, of getting a good-ish enough game. But here we go. We started. As you can see, I'm going to go over onto the right-hand side. We have Apostle going into the middle, and it looks like Red Sky is going over here onto the left-hand side. Red Sky was relatively newer player, not very few games actually in, and there's only like a 20% win rate. So I just it felt fine bringing them in. The other players have mixed, but they're more on the newer side. It looked like a little bit lower win rates, whereas Apostle and I were just kind of chilling in the middle of win rates and losses around 60% each. So a little bit stacked, but at this point, I actually waited for over an hour to get enough people into this game. That was another thing that was getting really annoying with Wargame Red Dragon, is making a game and seeing people join and leave for many different types of reasons. Even when I try to cater to them and try to balance it, and then they all leave, and I'm just like, well, what was the point of that? But at least we got somewhat balanced gameplay for this kind of game. Anyways, let's talk about the gameplay, shall we? We've got Hind and an Mi-8T. I'm having a little bit of the Spetsnaz GRU with a Igla team going to go around on the right-hand side. I had a bunch of air forces come in and land troops here in the center, going to Strokey and Iglas. And I'm sending these up, of course, as scouts. When you have transports, it's good just to send some ahead as a scout to see what you have. And I see there are 2 Blackhawks actually landing here. So I'm moving them up, see if I can try to stop them at all. I stun up the Blackhawks, but they were able to unload. They were able to kill a bunch of stuff, but the Hind does take a hit, so it is stunned up. I need to try to pull back what I can, and it looks like it was just a couple of stingers, based upon the Blackhawks at point-blank range and hitting. I see there's some M1 IP Abrams come in, so there is heavy armor, and the KA-29 TV does look like he does get out just in time. Moving up by going to Strokey, as well as my land forces now arriving. I've got BMP-2s with Strokey in them, a BMP-T, and I've got Skrzets, which of course have the VDB-90s. And of course, bringing up a T-64 BP, a good middle-of-the-round tank. So just to shore up my force, and I will be trying to assault into center, see if I can try to take that. Apostle actually manages to get to Fedor first. All of it, actually. Looks like the enemy was a little slow in coming into the center. But that is actually going to give a possible really big advantage, especially with that BU, to be able to try to keep them from approaching from Dimitri. And it looks like Redski doesn't try to take the town. That is fine. Sometimes it's hard to take the town. Looks like he's playing a either a Czech deck or the Yugoslavian. Oh no, he's playing Eastern Bloc deck, it looks like. Tunguska M finally takes out a couple of the Cobras there, so he was able to fire all of its infrared missiles. But the thing is, he also has his radar on, so always try to turn your radar off, or at least have a hotkey so you're able to quickly turn it off, because there are even Super Cobras around those. Could take out those Tunguskas, no problem at all. So I've got the Gru and the Iglas here. I'm going to try to see if I can spot into center, and the Iglas, of course, are going to try to stop any helicopters that might stop the Spetsnaz from doing this. I have all my stuff here. Now I'm worried, because I know there's a hotkey, but I never really figured out how to do it, where I could get the infantry to stay in the forest completely and be unperturbed, but given in squads of 2, I was worried that one squad might reveal itself, they'd be alerted, and I kind of bottlenecked here as I'm trying to make sure it's safe to move my troops across in order to get into the forest line. This actually, I think, took a missile shot or something here. I just knew that I realized I couldn't push it up. I think there was a couple of the IP Abrams here shot at it, but they missed, and so I retreated it down here. As you see, it did fire a shot. So I'm moving here into the forest line so I can provide a little bit of support here in Fedor while keeping it covered, as I'm trying to bring up a Sturm to give a little bit of extra ATGM coverage, and the M1 IP Abrams have moved over here. I also have the Vasilic. This will be my solution to try to get my troops guaranteed to approach into center without being seen. I'm going to be trying to smoke up as much as possible. It looks like artillery is going to rain down onto Fedor. It has already started, as Redski actually has consolidated all of his areas. He's even got Cubs, which pretty good. Basically the Czech version of the Buck. But they have a little bit less missiles. Probably, if I had a side-by-side comparison, I could probably compare them better to the Buck. But still good enough to deter any airplanes. But it's actually on. Make sure to turn off seed. Turn off radar. Beware of seed. Spetsnaz Gru did manage to spot something. Iglas are trying to move up. They might have shot down a helicopter, though I don't see any corpses at the moment. There it is. There's a Cobra there. I'm trying to move the Iglas up just close enough. I have regular Iglas, not regular Igla ends, because, well, to be honest, regular Iglas are actually fine for their cost, and you get more of them, so you're not super restricted in what you have. T-64Bs are actually targeting the M1A1 Abrams. And here begins the Vasilics. With these tanks, they would crew apart any infantry that accidentally revealed themselves. So the Vasilic, I am stupidly, next to my CV, firing a bunch of smoke shells, trying to smoke up the Abrams on their side, just covering like a layer of smoke. So the enemy can only guess what I'm trying to achieve as I'm trying to get my stuff across, making sure I put an extra layer. And the T-64B is actually fired at these M1 IP Abrams, which are actually kind of out in the open. I don't think the enemy realized that I was firing my Agona missiles, but as you can see, they're not really well, never mind. Actually, a few of them actually did hit. So one M1 IP Abram is on its last health, as the last Agona missile is firing from the T-64BV. It takes out the IP. Now I see that shell, and instantly my Vasilic is moving. Shell falls short, but that Vasilic is fast moving out of the way. And again, I kind of did it stupidly near my CV. So hopefully that doesn't get hit by an artillery piece, as I move my Vasilic a little bit out of the way of where the artillery strike coming in. And now he's going to be aiming and resuming his smoke. And as you can see, it's actually doing pretty well of obscuring the view, but I do want a little bit more smoke layer added as my VDV do move up. And this was what I feared. If you guys noticed that it was solid for a moment, these VDV squads actually got out of the forest line of sight, as those Abrams had a good line of sight. They could fire on it and actually do damage. And here they are out in the open again. Monostroke here trying to move up as I'm putting more smoke onto that layer. And I'm doing the shoot and scoot. I gave it the order after it fired those extra smoke shells to move out of the way, because I do know that they have artillery and they are targeting me. BU takes out the M1 Abrams. So he's definitely holding them off with his 1 T-72 BU. As looks like Redski's actually going to try to push it with some troops, but he's got some regular trained light riflemen, which are merely meant to get there first so that they could provide zone of control of the town. You also have Conqueror's M in here, so it's only really the Zesty that can deal with these U.S. Marines. And I'm actually kind of interested because the Zesty are, yeah, that's exactly what I thought. They're actually melting to the Marines, even though they have napalm. The Marines are hopscotching, skip roping to the different buildings, and they completely wipe out the napalm. So now you just got some regular trained infantry, which are no better than Modestroki in actual town combat. The only thing they have going for them is their Metes missile at range. And unfortunately, they can't use the Metes missile on these U.S. Marines, so I don't think this is actually going to work out too well. But hang on, he is actually bringing in some reinforcements here. And the Mi-8Ts, and they are LSTR-40s. Well, okay. These are great for taking out airplanes and helicopters and tanks, but against U.S. Marines, they're not the best because they don't have a second light machine gun. Looks like my GRU did get taken out by the Bradleys that were there, but I managed to successfully push my infantry across, my tanks are across, and my BMP-T is ready, as well as the Tunguska with its radar off, ready to stop any air force that comes forward. And looks like I'm getting ready to go for my push. I have my Akula here because there are a lot of Abrams, and I'd love to get those 26 AP, 70% accuracy Vickers missiles on them. Only downside is, of course, that it reduces down to 35% when it is moving. Now I'm beginning my push. This time they're actually close enough in range. I actually stopped for a moment. I wanted the Modestroki to go first to take the hits because, well, they're Modestroki. And VDV are much more valuable. The Modestroki actually see the Abrams and fire, and they're actually getting shot at by the autocannon of whatever it is in here. What are you? Some kind of combat? Probably a combat. So the Modestroki actually died pretty quickly. BMPT engaged with the autocannon and frag grenades at the M1A1 Abrams. Akula is moving up. I lost my BMPT, but the Akula is going to be fired at the Abrams. It looks like the Bradleys are trying to move up to get into range with their autocannons. But I was well prepared because I've got BMP-2s, I've got Sturbs, I've got basically ATGM for days, and the VDV-90s with their Vampire missiles, 24 AP power, are able to fire point-blank range against this M1 IP Abrams, which does get taken out quickly. Modestroki moving up, as well as the T-64 is in a perfect position to provide fire support from any infantry that are going to try to shoot at them, like these poor riflemen squad. So T-64 BB is going to trade it out. Hornet came in, I think tried to take out the T-72BU, might have missed, but it did get shot down, looks like by some Iglas there. And it unfortunately died. Well, fortunately for us. So I'm doing a kind of slow push forward. KA-29TB is going to provide some fire support, as well as these Grisettes also going to be trying to fire support with their quad PKTs and their ZU-23-2s. That's a mouthful. T-64BV, pretty good fire support with his 4 HE power. VDV are going to be advancing forward because I do have a close combat quarters. I'm bringing up one of my transport Hinds. It gets shot down because there are those stingers that are there, but it did provide the support it needed to really weaken that stuff up. My Mi-8Ts moving up reveals that there are still stingers and they still have ammo. But at this point, I really didn't care, except for my KA-29TB. I actually wanted to save that instead of the Mi-8T. Aardvark comes in, drops bombs, takes out all the transports, but he managed to get his T-72BU out of dodge, and this is where the Air Force is actually starting to come in. My Tunguska is actually going to be firing with its AA missiles. I think in one hit and actually stunned it. My Iglas are also going to begin opening up and taking it out. They actually go and they shoot down my KA-29, but they missed my KA-52, and it looks like my Iglas shot down the other F-16. A little bit dive deep with those planes. You want to use cheaper planes in order to try to take out the helicopters. The Modestroki are now engaging directly with the riflemen that are stunned, being backed up by the Grisettes, as the T-64BV is also going to be moving up. I'm going to be trying to begin to consolidate my position into center, and then I can try to push down into Dmitry and Boris and provide support for my allies. And it looks like through determination and a lot of zesty and other throwaway troops with a lot of tank backup, it looks like Red Sky finally actually managed to push into the town. It didn't look like the person in Elena was giving too much of a fight for the town, or at least they try to back it up. I do know it takes a long time for reinforcements to arrive. You don't have them reeled or helicopter. Looks like the tanks are going to have to back up because they're taking quite a hit from these super M60s. Now, don't see these taken too often. But they do have a high round rate of fire per minute, though the M8 has an even better higher round rate of fire, though the M60 is more armored. So, it looks like they're going to try to hold up as desperate as possible. It looks like a MiG is shot down by an AA piece over here. My DVDV and the Monostroke move up. My Iglos are going to be trying to get into town as well. A Nighthawk comes in and hits the BU, badly stunts it. And too bad the Nighthawk doesn't have the 2 missiles to instantly kill with those laser guided bombs. Now having a 50% accuracy chance to miss where you point and click. BU is rightfully retreating. My Sturm, for some reason, moved up and died. I don't know what it was thinking about that. And here is the Bertino that I actually brought in anticipation to try to take the town if I needed it. It took so long that it finally arrived, but it's not actually very useful at the moment. Squizets are moving up to try to hit this Cobra. Actually takes out the Cobra. Arvar comes in. Looks like it brought some more cluster bombs, but there's no more tanks into this forest area here. Super Cobra is moving up with its TOW-2s, so it is actually quite deadly to these tanks. It looks like Red Sky's T-55 AM2 is targeted by Super Cobra and Longbow, so it is definitely dead. And looks like we've got a bunch of rocket trucks trying to drop their load in. These are pretty good, so I would recommend next time bringing them just a little bit closer. They are wheeled, so it doesn't take them very long to drive out closer, fire their rockets, and come back for a quick resupply of their capabilities. Looks like I'm bringing my Akula back and my KA-52 after they took out all of those tanks, and I have my SU-27S. I prefer these actually over the Yak. Even though the Yak can get off its missiles quicker, this has more missiles, has more like stamina in the combat. And it looks like the enemy is pushing massively with their M8s. My BMP-2s are actually, and the T-64 are actually trying to hold them off. They actually have pretty decent armor with their forefront armor actually surviving these hits from the M8s. They all fire their Conqueror's M's, but all the Conqueror's M's actually missed, so I'm forced to retreat my T-64 BB. I do need to be mindful of my Tunguska, as these M8s are actually doing a pretty good job at clearing out all of my forces, especially since they all missed. So that was kind of unlucky on my part. It looks like there was a Humvee CVs there that my Squizets actually successfully took out. And it looks like the M8s were targeted to kill one of my transports that were trying to resupply everything. SU-27 is still flying around in the background. Now this is where he's kind of making this mistake. He's getting up close to these VDV-90s, which have no problem with their Vampire missiles and the Monostroke to instantly just take out those M8s, one shot, one kill. Now the Squizets actually managed to shoot down some kind of Black Hawk there last second, and they actually managed to firing computer reset, allowing the BMPT to kill the M8 with its autocannon, because the M8 does not have much armor, so a simple autocannon from a BMPT was enough in order to kill that. And I am desperately trying to resupply my stuff, so it's time to bring up an MI6. Looks like my SU-27S did actually take a hit. That was a little surprise. I don't know what actually hit it, so I'm sending it back. As I'm bringing up my T-80 UK to try to go and secure a center so we can get more points in order to push the enemy forward. It looks like Red Sky is continuing his push forward, and it looks like Char Nazbul doesn't have very much forces in over here on Elena. Looks like he is trying to push against community, though not very successful. As you see, we are pushing on all fronts successfully, I might add. The U.S. Marines are trying desperately to push the LSTR-40s back, but they're getting wiped out. Spetsnaz Guru are also going to be Rocket Ardit from Anna, or regular Ardit from Anna, not Rockets. And as you can see, I'm consolidating my position even more. I've got a couple more Squizets with the VDV-90 moving forward. Interestingly, I brought the Monostroke so that they're cheaper with those RPGs. They're just a standard line infantry. 5 more points, you can get a pretty good RPG, but the RPG is a shorter range than this Monostroke is now, and the VDV-90s, of course, have a much longer range with the RPG-29, so I just wanted a little bit more range. Finally going to try to get some use out of this Buratino. I'm going to be Rocket RD in this town in order to help out my ally who's having a little bit of difficulty pushing forward, especially with that longbow. though the Tunguska is going to open up. It does take out that longbow, so they don't have to worry about that anymore. As the Buratino is going to be burning, and looks like killed, or at least dislocated, the enemy infantry CV. No, the TUK just stopped moving. But it did kill some stuff with that Buratino. It created a ring of fire around this town. And with it out, it now has orders to immediately move fast back down to the fob. And it looks like the best player of the team had enough. He is going to be leaving because we are pushing on all fronts. Things do not look good on his end. T-72BU is, of course, moving up to fire a shot and kill up the LVTs. He's bringing more tanks, and it looks like Abrams are coming up forward down this road to try to dislodge me from this position. Just my T-64 are repairing, but I'm being mindful of that. I'm bringing my KA-52, my Akula. Akula fires this Vickers missile, but of course misses because it is moving. Veers off at the last second. That was kind of BS. Vickers missile finally manages to kill because it stopped moving. Now they're very accurate. It's going to take a lot of missiles to try to take out these M1A2 Abrams. Okay, that's why it took so much. Yeah, so they're really expensive though, 180 points each. M1A1 Abrams are also here as another player leaves the game. Looks like the person on the far left. As it's just Piano Man left with his M1A2 Abrams. Trying to take the last hits from these Vickers missiles. And the last Vickers missile fires from my Akula and does take it out. That makes my Akula elite status from the sheer amount of tanks that it killed. I did lose my plane to something. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe got too close to a Patriot or something. Well, it's time for the Akula to go back. I moved all of my Monostroki and VDV back here so that they can get reinforcements in their squad from the MI6. The T-80 is going to move up to try to hold this position. As you can see, I've consolidated this position with my VDV-90s up here with the BRDM to spot. Squazettes and the BMPT are trying to kill everything in case there are any infantry that come up over the ridge here. And the T-80 is, of course, going to be helping that out shortly. It looks like another barrage from Red Sky is coming forward to go and land on the enemy forces. Now, of course, this shows the fobs here, here, and here, but that's only because the game starts off in neutral position, and the lingering ghost of the fobs kind of stay in from that, but we had no idea where the fobs actually were. It looks like an M1A1 HC is up here in the forest, but lost line of sight of it from the T-55. That might not work out for the T-55 if it drives up into the Abrams. Of course, it takes a huge hit from the Abrams right there. T-55 doesn't have the AP power to spot it, and the M1A1 Abrams does indeed just survive and take that out. It looks like a, not an Urigan, not a Buratino, looks like a Smirch was going. Yeah, Smirch was firing. I also brought in an Urigan because I thought that would do me some good. Bringing a MiG-27K because there's an Abrams here, because I actually decided I wanted to try to charge forward. I loaded up the VDV in one of the Squazettes and tried to move up. Now, unfortunately, the Abrams did take out one of the Squazettes that had the VDV in it. Su-25K takes that out as my MiG-27K was also going to try to take that out. VDV-90 are going to try to go into this town, try to help out, take out the Marines because it would take them too long. But then when I saw that there's no more stuff shooting back at my forces, I'm just going to try to walk my VDV-90 into Boris, because even though one of them is panicked, they do move at 25 kilometers an hour due to their shock training, so they'll be able to actually move there a lot faster than normal line infantry. None of them are coming forward. They're going to be artillery and taking out the U.S. Marines that are in Dimitri, so this is still a contested zone. I should have taken the rest of my infantry force and started moving it up, but I was a little bit of tunnel vision at the moment on Boris. This one M1A1 HC Abrams basically turning this into a choke point and just going to constantly lay fire down, kill anything that tries to move forward. So, Red Sky, good luck with that M1A1 Abrams. It's definitely doing a pretty good job of keeping them back. Oh, he moved up his Conqueror M so that they fire at much closer range. That's actually a pretty smart idea. And one of the Conqueror M does hit, but it doesn't do much damage. You break forward an Su-25K, and that actually helped to kill it and give the final points needed for a win of the game. So, like I said, this was one of the more stompier of the games that I tried not to avoid, but trust me, all the other games with the USSR I did were much worse, surprisingly. So I just kind of said, screw it, let's just get this in, I hope you at least were entertained enough with like my strategy and such moving forward. Looking at the kills, see that the Akula just killed all things tanks. Really well done with all of its ammo. VV90s also killed a bunch of stuff that got too close. And yeah, a bunch of stuff killed. Skurzet's killing both the Humvee and the TACOM squad, probably in the next zone forward. So yeah, that's the USSR game. I hope to get out more of the other games in the future. And I will hope to see you in the next one. And I am eagerly awaiting as Warno gets more and more updates and more polished. Because once it's polished enough, in my view, I will definitely be playing it. So again, thank you for watching. And I'll catch you in the next video.